Hello and welcome to the iRacing Grand Prix Championship Live on Apex Racing TV. I'm Sam Fitzpatrick. Alongside me is Marco Barbanera, along with Kevin Ellis Jr. and Scott Newton as well on the cameras. And we are here for Season 1, Round 1 of this brand new series. And Marco, we really enjoyed covering the iGPS last season. We enjoyed covering the team stream as well for the World Championship as well. And yeah, this, a very high quality field, should provide plenty of action.
Hello everyone. Yes, absolutely. High quality field. We have the possibility of live stewarding, so these drivers are getting as close as possible to the real thing. Of course, open setups. The name of the drivers on the list, on the starting list, is fantastic. So I think, Sam, we are going to have a lot of fun. And of course, we have the great honor, like you said before, of having with us a World Championship driver in the booth. It's Kevin Ellis Jr. Hello, Kevin.
Hey guys, happy to be here. Welcome everyone to the stream. Obviously round one of this new championship. And yeah, not as many drivers as we would have hoped, but as you guys touched on earlier, the quality of the drivers here is pretty high. So hopefully have a good race nonetheless.
Yeah, so of course you were running in this around this circuit in the World Championship yesterday, Kevin, and we saw overtaking extremely difficult around this circuit. Why is that? Because there's a few straights, but we just saw the difficulty of overtaking, really immense.
I think it's more to do with the corners right before that lead onto the straights are very long sweepers. The 90 degrees, or in the case of the last corner, it's just over 90 degrees. So you're just getting dirt air the whole time you're going through those corners. So if you're trying to line up a move, you're just going to be getting dirt air that entire corner leading up to the straights. So although the straights are relatively long, it's just the corners that lead up to it. The tyres just simply do not have the grip to overcome the effects of dirt air, unfortunately.
Yeah, we've got a track temperature of 32 degrees today, so 66% track race distance, so 40 laps for these drivers. Should be a relatively easy one-stopper, shouldn't it, Michael? We saw drivers doing 60 laps yesterday, admittedly slightly cooler conditions. They are going to have to manage the tyres a little bit, I imagine, but this should be, for first round, pretty just hard and fast, going as fast as they possibly can.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think the variables could be the eventuality of a safety car, even though talking with the stewards, and of course we have to just give a big shout out to them. It's David Street, of course, Joseph Stelling, and Michele Costantini. Talking with them, they said that basically to have a safety car, something very, very big must happen in the first couple of laps. So you're not going to see a safety car with a single car into the fence halfway through the race. It has to be something big, and usually, Sam, when something big happens, it's early in the race, in the first couple of corners, first couple of laps.
Yeah, we could get a safety car probably in the first about 3 laps, and then after that it's extremely unlikely. So don't expect a safety car. It's really just a last solution, really, just to save as much carbs as possible, because we don't want them all going out on the first lap, obviously. And of course, yeah, we've already talked a little bit about the tyre wear, Kevin. Are these drivers going to be able to just go flat out, like I said earlier on, or has that always got to be in the back of your mind, because it is such a pivotal key?
I think it'll be a pretty straightforward one-stop, and these guys will be able just to push 100% the whole way. Maybe the last few laps of the race, in the final stint, they might need to maybe tone it back just a little bit, depending on what they do with their setup. There's obviously many variables that come into effect when you're talking about tyre wear. So, but for us, I know for sure it would be a 100% effort for 40 laps, with pitting somewhere around, I'd say 18 would be optimal. But really anywhere between 16 and 20 would be good to come in for your first stop. So yeah, I'd say if anyone tries a no stop, that would be very optimistic. So I expect to see one stops throughout the field today.
Yeah, because these drivers currently completing their qualifying laps. Do you have like a strategy yourself, Kevin, for these qualifying sessions? Maybe put in a banker early on, or is it just really going as fast as you possibly can for all 3?
Well, typically the nerves are pretty high. So your first lap is never really going to be as quick as your second unless you absolutely nail it. So there's no real set strategy really for me anyway for qualifying. It's more just get in and get 2 solid laps and try and do the best you can. But typically just because of nerves and getting used to the track conditions as well, usually your first lap is just naturally a bit slower.
Yeah, and Marco, of course, we've got 8 rounds of this championship. It'll be an interesting Drivers' Championship as well, and also an interesting Constructors' Championship, potentially. We've got a lot of, quality teams, and we have got a Constructors' Championship in this, where the top 2 teams from each, the top 2 drivers, from each team score Constructors' points, and they will be accumulated. It's quite a good system, I think, Marco. And, often in these series, unless it's, a proper team championship, you don't really get team rivalries like this. But in this championship, it is very much a recreation of real life.
Yeah, and it also guarantees a championship win for McLaren in the end, no? Sorry, I had to say that. But yeah, I like it. It will provide for some good team racing. And of course, I mean, we will have to see how this drive, because just like in the past, in the official series, we are going to have 66% races, full distance races. Of course, there's going to be a time limit as well. So, but it shouldn't come into play unless we have a safety car or an extremely slow pace over all of the field. But I think it's not going to be the case with these guys running around. So yeah, also the qualifying is 3 laps instead of 2. And although we are switching cameras back and forth between the various drivers, they are running alone on the field. That's the magic of technology for you. Josh Thompson, we've seen him in many cars on this channel, in GTs, I think we'll see him in a Porsche later tonight, and now in a Formula 1. Of course, he was doing the Formula 1 side of the McLaren Shadow project a few weeks ago. I think he's going to do even though he hates it, the GT3 version side of things as well. So certainly a driver that can be very fast in a variety of cars, but as you see, they're a big mistake, and that's, I think, it's the end of his qualifying.
Yeah, I think so. Adam Tierney currently in 5th position. And, oh, wow, he loses it in a very strange position. Kevin, can you just explain maybe what happened to Adam there?
So I've done it myself. It's especially with this new steering update that came out in iRacing, the steering's a lot more sensitive than it was only a few weeks ago. So it looks like Adam took a bit of a tight line into the right-hander there, and it does look like an easy flat-out corner, but with DRS open and on qualifying pressures, sometimes it can be a little bit of an issue, as Adam proved there. So yeah, just with DRS open, you do need to be careful. It's something that can also catch you out in the race late on in a stint. If you're a bit too erratic on the steering, it will do that. So that's something for the drivers to keep an eye on. It's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's a good confidence boost, I imagine, going into a session like this. And have to put that out of his mind. But of course, of course, these drivers will only get DRS when within 1 second of the car ahead during the race rally. Preston, good to see him out there. Of course, a pro driver, I think, is Riley, but of course gets involved in quite a few collisions. Not his fault all the time, because his Aussie internet does not help him out too much. A little bit wide through the chicane and had to take too much curb. Is that one of the most difficult corners around this circuit, you'd say, Kevin, especially in qualifying, because you can't afford to, break, 20 meters early and sacrifice, 1.5 tenths or whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely the make or break corner of this circuit. If you get the rest of the lap good, you feel good coming onto the back straight, and then you remember you've got this chicane coming up, so you've got to try and brake as late as you can, and still get the car turned. And obviously Riley there braking a little bit too late, trying to get a bit too much time, and a bit greedy there and paid the price. So yeah, that chicane is probably one of the toughest corners on the track, definitely.
Seems as though everyone has done their lap times. We have just got about 20 more seconds of qualifying to complete, and then the drivers will be able to start gooding up. But out of the field that we see today, Marco, seems like Ricardo Roscoe is on pole position. Do you think, the likes of Thompson, Calistani, and Augusto are going to be able to challenge him right to the end?
I think so. even though in qualifying Orozco has been the only driver down under the 130 mark. One thing is to qualify, one thing is to race, and especially if one of these guys can sneak past Orozco at the beginning of the race, it could provide for some nice battling up there in the front. And the podium spots, of course, are going to be very, very chaotic. All these drivers have similar pace, so looking forward to a great race.
Absolutely on pole position for this race, as I've already mentioned, Riccardo Orozco, and alongside him on the front row, Josh Thompson. In third, Matteo Calistani, and in fourth, Rinaldo Augusto. Then it's Adam Turney, Alexandros Harj-Navarra in sixth, Luca Furlich in seventh. Joseph Ringrose starts in eighth, and Jonathan San Emirato Revolta in ninth. Apologies if I've done that wrong. I'll get the hang of that after 8 rounds of this championship. Then it's David Cudmore rounding out the top 10. Behind that, it's Flavio Clivati in 11th. We've already got a word, and also Riley Preston starts in 12th place. We've already got a word from Marco, who he thinks is going to be very strong in this race. Kevin, who is your money on for this one?
I would say with Roscoe having the experience from the World Championship yesterday, I think he's definitely the favourite. So as the drivers are beginning to line up now, only 25 seconds left. And it looks like there's only going to be 10 cars taking the grid, as there's a 105% qualifying row in place here. And Riley and Flavio did not make the cut, unfortunately, so we're down to only 10 drivers. But we've got more drivers signed up for round 2, so hopefully I'll have a bit more then. But anyway, as the lights are about to come up for these drivers, get ready to go. I'll hand it back to you, Sam.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Unfortunately, yeah, Preston didn't set a lap time. Clavazzi did not set a fast enough lap time. So we've got 10 cars on the grid. Riccardo Orozco from the pole position here at Nürburgring. And away we go. Orozco is going to be able to cover off Thompson going into turn 1. It's a pretty even start for everyone really down the field. Calistein's got to be a little bit careful from P4 just behind, but he should be able to hang on to that one. A little bit side by side with Joe Ringrose that just, holding his position. Turney is down 2 positions. Down the inside that is Turney, I think, trying to gain back that position. But a very clean start. Of course, no safety cars in this early stage with, no incidents there. And very impressive from these drivers, Mark.
Clean start from everyone. Augusto had a bad getaway from his starting position, but he was able to hold on to 4th place. And, these drivers know that 40 laps, 1 hour and a half, so no need to take these big risks very early in the game. There's a lot of time to improve your position. Of course, it's not going to be easy. We talked about it. Passing is not that easy, but it's going to be possible if you can set up your move. And right now we see, I think, one of the cars going a little bit wide there, but nothing major. So the status quo remains the same, with Orozco leading over Thompson and Calistani for the podium right now.
Yeah, of course, at this stage in the race, Kevin, does Thompson kind of have to make this move? We saw overtaking really difficult yesterday, but maybe in these early stages is perhaps his best chance to go for this overtake.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as the tyres begin to wear, trying to get a run out that last corner with the dirt air is just nigh on impossible. So either Josh can be very aggressive early on, try and get the lead from Orozco, or he can just set in his DRS and try and do something with the strategy. New tyres are about 2 seconds a lap faster than guys who stay out, so 2-lap undercut, that's near enough 4 seconds. So that's something the drivers are going to need to keep in mind when it comes to pitting. It's quite a narrow pit window here, with there only being 1 stop in the 66% distance, but just 1 lap can make all the difference, especially if you're within DRS range of the car ahead. So I'd say for Josh right now, he's not going to have the overall pace over Orozco, but if he can stay in the DRS and do something with the strategy, then I'd definitely say that's the best strategy for him at the moment.
And I am just going to ask, positive sim racing are different from positive team sports, I assume?
They are
the same.
So, yeah.
They are the same, yeah.
Okay, so we've got positive sim racing, positive team sport, and positive drivers club. Okay, that's not too confusing then. I can get my head around that. Adam Turney, of course, down 2 positions. We haven't mentioned, of course, Luca Furlich up 2 positions himself, from 7th to 5th. has got a little bit of a queue behind him of Haji Navarra and Tierney currently. And the Radicals online driver of Tierney was running in second place at one point in qualifying, but just failed to improve his lap time because that had that spin through the kink. Of course, these drivers won't get the DRS quite yet, and it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if we just go on board. The drivers don't really gain so much time down these straights in this car. The slipstream effect's certainly not particularly powerful, and yeah, Tierney by the end of that straight, nowhere near to the back of the Racing Network's car.
We're also trying to increase that gap a little bit, 0.5 of a second now. But still Thompson is keeping it close as we are on board with Tierney right now, sitting in P7. And as you can see, this little train of cars from P5 to P7. And I think they will have DRS starting from this lap, so going to be another interesting solution if they want to try and make an overtake. Lap 3 of 40, you see a little bit of a mistake from Haji Vernava there, but he's able to save the car. You have to be very, very careful, because in this track, if you lose the car like that, you are in the walls 100%.
That was good from Adam there, just to get out the thoughts on, because that could have been very dangerous if he'd tried to stay in there all over the curb. And of course, that was a perfect example of the dirty air, the turbulent air there, Kevin. And it is just so difficult to stay close to that mid part of the track. By the time you get onto that back straight, you're usually half a second back at least.
Yeah, that was a perfect example there of the dirty air for Adam. He's quite close to the back of Alexandros here, mind you. He's got the DRS open, but of course so is Alexandros. He goes defensive down into turn 1. Tierney looking to the outside, cannot quite get alongside. And yeah, that's the unfortunate racing that this car provides in a pack where the car ahead has DRS and the slipstream is near enough non-existent, but the dirty air seems to be plentiful. Again, that's something that we've been asking to be fixed for a while and not seen anything, but you never know. Maybe with the new tyre model that'll fix things, a bit more grip overall, as I don't feel this car has quite as much grip as it necessarily should. But yeah, at the moment Adam's just going to be feeling the full effects already of that dirty air and the lack of slipstream off the back of Alexandros here as he gets close down into the Dunlop hairpin again. Got to stay, he's doing well to stay this close, but in the next 5 or 6 laps you'll begin to see the gaps increase, unfortunately, and it'll be tougher to stay that close.
Yeah, now he's starting to see that I maybe between these top two, Thompson 0.6 of a second behind, but you can see he's not quite as close as he was earlier on. Remember, at the end of the opening lap, he was only about 0.3 of a second behind. But he's just struggling to stay quite within overtaking range. A little bit wide there for Thompson, trying to maybe square off the corner a little bit. Across the line this time, about 0.7 of a second between the pair of them. Tierney is very close though to Haji Navarra once again. It's 0.2 of a second. Haji Navarra should just about get DRS, I think, down the pit straight. But yeah, it's down to 0.1 of a second. Here we go. The Radicals online driver to the inside and Tierney. But round the outside actually is Haji Navarra, and that's a very good defensive move. He's got the inside for turn 2. He's not going to give up his Tierney, and maybe if you can find the inside into 3, he might be able to respond. But for now, at least he's going to have to stick in behind. That was fantastic defense there from Haji Navarra, Marco.
Yes, great defending. I love a good defensive move on the outside there in the second corner. I mean, that was great driving, but of course this battle is helping fairly in front of them, and who knows, maybe Ringrose will be able to close the gap, even though I think that Adam will be able to complete the move in the next couple of laps. But good defending, good racing so far.
Yeah, it's clear that he can stay this close. He's got a good pace advantage, at least, you know, quarter of a second plus. I think at the very least, but he is just a little bit wide again. And at this point, will he be getting a little bit frustrated? Kevin, will Adam get a little bit, you know, annoyed that he's not finding this move? As he got to just keep his cool until he can make it, because right now he's all over the back of him.
The frustration will be beginning to build now, even though it's only lap 5. I've got to say though, Adam has definitely got the pace advantage, and holding up Alexandros a little bit and letting Luca get away might not actually be the worst idea, because that means that, of course, Alexandros will lose the DRS, and then Tierney will at least have a bit more of a chance. But down into turn one that time after the mistake he made coming onto the back straight there. He's not quite close enough to make a move, but just something interesting that I noticed on Tierney there. After what we saw in qualifying, just when he went through the kink there, he actually closed the DRS going through the right-hander. So he's clearly learned from qualifying. He's now closing the DRS and then reopening it again just after he gets through the right-hander. So Tierney using his initiative there to try and keep the car on the track, but at the moment, looks like he's going to struggle to get by Haji Navarra.
Yeah, that was a good spot. And yeah, fascinating that Adam, feels neat. Of course, he's not exactly within passing range anyway down there. I wonder if he's a little bit closer, where he can maybe go for a move into the chicane, whether he'll open it all the way. But it doesn't look close, so he's going to be close enough for the chicane. Actually, Hajanvar closing back in now on Furlich. The gap has gone down from about a second to 0.6 of a second on this lap, and that's exactly what Adam Tierney does not want to see, because when they've both got DRS, there's almost no advantage at all for Tierney, as Kevin's already explained with the lack of slipstream effect. But they're very close now. This top three is a little bit odd here from Luca, Marco, and just one poor lap, and all of a sudden he's got two very quick drivers right on his tail.
Yeah, and now Tierney is all over the back of Giovinazzi. Maybe a bad exit there from the final corner, as I think Ringrose and Emeterio had a get together. I don't know, because they are dropping down the order. Giovinazzi is able to defend once again. Nice battle pack here. No one seems to be able to get an advantage between Ferlich, Giovinazzi and Tierney right now.
Just had a look there. Ringrose ran deep into the last chicane, and San Emeterio Revuelta ran right up his backside on the exit there. So the two of them got tangled, and then that made an easy 2 spots for David Cudmore. He's not to P8, and some slight damage to the front wing there of Revuelta, so he'll have a longer pit stop. Maybe
the first work for our race officials. We right now have been enjoying some pizza, I think. Time to get to work, boys. Let's wait if we get an official communication from race control.
Yeah, of course, in race stewards in this series, so of course the drivers can get drive-through penalties. Well, I say drive-through penalties. You can get 1 second stop and go penalties. I think is the equivalent, and they can also be disqualified from the session and whatnot. So quite a lot of power. I'm just looking now to see if I've got that power. I don't have that power. That's very disappointing. But currently right on the tail is Adam Tierney. Closer than he's ever been. It was 0.2 of a second coming out of this corner on the last lap, and it's 1/4 of a second this time. He was very close though, and we'll see this time. Actually, Hajanvar is going to get very close to the car ahead, and they all going to have to go defensive, all compromising each other's lines, and they're all over the place into turn one, but nothing's changing currently.
Yeah, the classic accordion effect every time they run into a corner, and now we switch our cameras to second place, because Thompson is not giving up on this, and the gap has been consistently in the 0.5, 0.3 of a seconds in the corner. So, oh, look at that, great save there by Thompson. I thought Orozco was going to be able to pull away, as Ringrose takes it to the pits in order, I think, to repair that damage. Will he be able to finish the race from here, Kevin?
Having a look at his steering angle, that car looks pretty done. 45 degrees off to the right, and of course then race stewards will be enforcing any rules of people driving cars that are not worthy to be on the track. It might cause a danger, so it'll be up to Joseph here to decide if that car's good enough to drive or not. I don't think it will be, but we'll need to see. As Tierney again, not as close as he has been previously, but these three, of course, battling for a top 5 spot. And I don't think there's going to be much down into turn 1 this time for Tierney. He was closer last time. Just need to keep an eye on this one and see what happens here, as it looks like Thompson also just keeping within DRS of Orozco. Identical lap times for the top 2 last time.
Oh, Hargenbar might have a chance here. He's got to try to get the cut back into turn 3 and a little bit wide actually from Furlich. Is this the chance for Alexander just to put his nose down the inside? Once the driver ahead sees that chance, of course, just take an early apex and very much can cover it off. And Furlich just about hung on to that one. He's struggling turn 1 though. And here's a chance here for the Radicals Online driver of Adam Turney. Could not quite make the move. That was good opportunistic driving there, Kevin, but into that corner, it's extremely difficult to follow for me.
Yeah, that's really not an overtaking position there, but a good chance there from Tierney, showing his nose, showing he's keen. But yeah, it's very hard. Just with the way the corner is cambered, it really is a one-line corner, and that was proven there. And the fact he's staying in P7, but as they come onto the back straight here, Tierney's still very close to the back of him. So what we typically do in the World Championship is you try and set and move up down here, get as close as you can, hold it through the chicane in the last corner, then try and move into turn 1. So it'll be unlikely to see any moves into this last chicane, but keep an eye on turn 1. We'll see. Oh, there's a big moment there, locking the rears, as Tierney has to go wide to avoid as well. I don't know if there was contact there or not. So that's kind of strung them back out a little bit as Ringrose has retired the car, so he's decided he's done. That's us down to 9 now, unfortunately. But still some good racing here for the top 5, despite the lack of cars.
Yeah, and the top 3 are pretty close as well. And then we kind of got this battle. Augusto a little bit by himself. We haven't really talked about Augusto so far, but just driving a very solid race currently in 4th place. I think probably Harja Navarra and maybe Turney as well. And there's a cut round. I think that was a lot of netcode there from what I saw of it at least. And we could see a move here for Adam Turney, maybe getting 2 positions in the space of a couple of corners. Down the inside he goes, Turney, and he might just be able to pull ahead. Can Hargenvar respond? No, he can't. Adam Turney waited for his chance, and boy, has he taken it.
Yeah, 2 for 1, basically 1 freebie and 1, well, Hargenvar was still trying to gather himself up after the contact. So I wouldn't say 2 freebies, but 1.5, let's say. And up to P5. I think I want to see the replay, but I think you were right. There was a fair bit of netcode involved in that contact, and that was unfortunate because it was a fantastic 3-way battle there between these 3 guys. Here we go with the replay. Wow. I mean, that's a lot of netcode in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. That was really disappointing to see, and you know, it wasn't, of course, deliberate whatsoever from Hargenvar because they were nowhere near one another. But of course, since the knee build, quite a few reports of incidents such as that. And yeah, once again, a driver falls victim to a netcode. Of course, these 2 will be hoping not to fall to the same fate because there's only half a second between each other. It's very much just been an ebbing and flowing race so far between these 2, Kevin. But do you see either of these maybe having the upper hand so far?
Hard to say really early on. The tires will begin to start wearing now quite severely in the next 5 laps. We'll start to see if there are going to be any issues at all. It will happen just before the pit stops. But it's been pretty even so far. And key thing to note there, just when Furlich spun, he didn't hit the wall, so I don't see any damage on his car. Maybe a slight bit on the front wing, but I'm not seeing any major damage on Furlich's car. So if he can get his act together and calm down, and you can maybe get back up there, just try and calm the nerves a little bit, or the frustrations from getting hit. It's never good to be spun around like that. So we'll need to just see if Furlich has the pace. But at the moment, looks like Tierney's beginning to gap out his Andros here. So.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if Tierney can now catch up to Augusto. 5 seconds between the pair of them at the moment. I think they're going to be pretty even on pace. But of course, if we can just get within maybe 2 seconds, like you said earlier on, Kevin, you know, 2 seconds a lot faster, fresh tyres compared to older tyres. And yeah, maybe that would open up the undercut opportunity for him. Thompson do that first part of the circuit. Not too much turbulent air there. You can see through those slow speed corners, you know, a lot of mechanical downforce, but on this part of the circuit, just struggling to get the car to the apex, and almost immediately loses about 0.2 of a second, 0.6 of a second now between the pair of them. Do you see maybe Ricciardo making a mistake anytime soon, Marco? Is Josh going to have to really make this one? Yeah, make it himself.
I mean, anyone can make mistakes. Roscoe is a fantastic driver, so I'm not expecting one. I know that Josh is a spectacular driver. He's very aggressive. He knows if he sees a chance, he's going to throw the car in that gap. So Ricciardo needs to, at the very least, keep the gap as it is, or get it a little bit bigger, a little bit wider margin between the two, because otherwise I think Josh, if he has even half a chance, he's going to go for a move there.
Still 8.5 tenths of a second behind. Let's see how close it gets by the end of this straight. It was about 7.5 tenths. So, you know, that slipstream effect and that DRS just not doing enough for Josh at the moment. He needs to be probably within 4 tenths of a second at the most. So maybe just gonna have to wait till the pit stops. Of course, it's a fascinating dynamic, I think, Kevin. You know, in this pit stop time, because as the leading driver, it's incredibly difficult to know what to do, because, you know, if Josh pits right now, he'll almost certainly get the undercut on the race leader. But at the same time, if Ricciardo pits now and Josh goes for another 5 laps, you know, maybe he'll be a sitting duck later on. It's really difficult for Roscoe to judge this one.
Yeah, he has got the advantage of the fact it's very tough to pass. So even if Thompson did have 5-lap pressure tyres, it's still going to be very tough to pass. So I think for Roscoe, he's got to make sure he pits first out of these two. He's not getting any threat from Calistani behind. Calistani, the worst part is 6 seconds back, so he's not getting any concerns there. So it will just be, I mean, that's a good thing for Roscoe. He's only got the one car to worry about right now in the shape of Thompson. So he's just got to make sure he pits first, because if Thompson pits in first, then he's going to have one hell of an in-lap and a very good pit stop as well to ensure he comes out ahead. But as you mentioned earlier, Thompson's very aggressive on track. Let's see if he's aggressive with his strategy as well and decides to go for a massive undercut.
Great exit there from the final corner from Josh Thompson, and you can see he is extremely close, not in a range of trying to make a move, but I mean, for Roscoe, it's got to be very unnerving to have this presence right behind you, basically from the get-go. And Josh Thompson is not letting up on the pressure over the race leader.
Yeah, so far it's remained very resolute, has Ricciardo Roscoe for the Positive Sim Racing team. I don't know if there could maybe be a bit of team games potentially later on. Of course, we do have Augusto, the Positive, Augusto running for Positive Sim Racing as well. He's currently in 4th place, and then Adam Turney, Radicals Online, he's running in 5th. And I'm just thinking, if the top 2 pitted, it'd maybe be slightly kinder to one or the other when letting them pass on fresh tyres. But I doubt that's going to play too much of a part. It'd be difficult to choreograph something like that. But lap 14 of 40, expecting pit stops kind of the next 4 laps or so for these drivers. And so the undercut window going to be opening very soon. David Cudmore fell back behind then Jonathan San Emateo Revolta. So I don't know if we could maybe see that move there, but yeah, Cudmore drops back down into P9.
Getting closer and closer to the halfway mark of the race, as we are in lap 15 out of 40. Roscoe is still the leader, as you can see, over Josh Thompson, 0.6 of a second. Calistani in the middle of nowhere, 6 seconds behind, almost 7. In a solid P3, then Augusto a little bit behind as well. Tierney, Juvernava, Ferlich in 5th, 6th and 7th. Then San Emeterio Revuelta in 8th and Cudmore in 9th, with Cudmore maybe trying to close the gap as we go back to the 5th place car. Adam Tierney, of course, a few laps ago he was in 7th, and then a little bit of a get-together between Juvernava and Ferlich helped him, and he got promoted into a top 5 spot.
Yeah, he's only 3.5 seconds behind Ronaldo Augusto now, so On that last lap, he was over a second faster. Not quite on par with the leaders. He was still over a second slower than the top two on that last lap was Adam Turney, but setting some good times, certainly good enough to catch up to 4th place. Crucially, by the time they come into the pit, so the undercut could maybe be an option. He really keeps this pace up. And Ricardo Roscoe into the pits already. So, Kevin, you said that he had to cover off Thompson. He had to pit first, and yeah, that's what he's done.
Yep, he's done the right thing there. The end of was at the end of 5th, so he's got a long way to go at the end of 25-26 lap stint to the finish. But we were doing that in the World Championship yesterday, so I don't think Ricardo will have many issues going that distance. So we need to see now. Thompson has to pit at the end of this lap. If he leaves it any longer, then he's going to have a huge gap to make up it, or he could easily leave it another 5 laps and try and have the much fresher rubber at the end. It's a 50-50 in my opinion. I don't think it's the staying out a lot longer and trying to catch back up is necessarily going to work, but he's got nothing to lose, put it that way. He's 6 seconds ahead of Calistani behind, so could always be worth a try.
Roscoe comes out behind Turney. Okay, that could be interesting. So I was talking earlier on how maybe you know, these couple of drivers, Turney and Auguste and Turney would be maybe kinder to one of the leaders than the other, and we'll wait and see. 3.5 seconds between the pair of them at the moment, and yeah, maybe Turney could do a little bit of a helping hand to Josh Thompson out in the lead now.
That was the strategies that were played in the World Championship yesterday. Coanda did that to Pete and I. They left David Williams out a few laps longer than us, and we had to get through the Coanda car, and he made life very difficult for both Pete and I. Of course, as if any of you watched, then you would have saw that Pete lost about 3 seconds behind him. So it's a legitimate strategy that can be used if Radicals have their strategy guys working away there. Then that's definitely a plan. As let's see, did Thompson pit that time? No, Thompson stayed out, so he's going to go for the overcut. Yeah, so Thompson's going to go for the overcut then, as Tierney stays out as well.
So we can definitely say that the Bottas strategy has become a thing. I mean, a very, very popular thing, because we've been seeing that a lot, both in real life and in racing lately.
Yeah, definitely.
And to be fair, there's nothing that you can do against it, basically, because it's very difficult. I was talking with Alex yesterday, Alex Simpson. It's very, very hard to regulate such a thing, you know. It's not the nicest thing to do, but I think the only thing you can do is to do the strategy as well yourself. And of course, to do that, you need to have a teammate in a similar position, which of course Orozco at the moment has only Calistani, but he has already pitted, so he's out of the equation for the moment. So let's see what happens.
Thompson stays out once again then. Orozco now almost to the back of Turney. So it's 1.2 seconds. He could get DRS actually this time, although I doubt he'll be within the detection zone. Down to 1.1 seconds now through the chicane. He won't get him by the first corner anyway, will Orozco. But this is pretty crucial now. He's going to pretty much spend an entire lap behind the Radicals drive, and until they get back round to the chicane, there's not an overtaking spot around this entire circuit. On that last lap, though, Ricardo was 1.4 seconds faster than Thompson, so he's going to be okay in terms of track position, even if Turney does hold him up for a lap or two. But it's still not ideal for his tyres, and costs he'd like a bigger gap as he possibly can build. Let's see if he can get him into this next corner. Turney goes to the inside, and you can clearly see he's desperate to keep the driver behind him. Round the outside goes Orozco. This would be a fantastic move if he can pull it off. He's got the inside for the Schumacher S, and there's not a whole lot Turney can do. He nearly slides off the circuit in the end. That was a fantastic move there from Ricardo Orozco.
Yeah, and Thompson needs to pit now. Let's see if he's already past the start-finish line, as
Stays out.
Stays out, okay.
That was a great move there from Orozco. Had to be aggressive. Left each other the perfect amount of room there. That was crucial from Orozco here. He's got to get his head down now. Set a couple of low 31s, try and establish a gap so that when Thompson comes in, he's got a good 3 or 4 second gap on him. I don't think that would have lost him too much time, maybe 5 or 6 tenths. But he's got to get his head down now and push. We'll see his lap time across the line, see how much time he did lose. 32.5, so almost a second he lost.
So the tyranny is in. Agi Varnava is yet to stop, so does Augusto, so does Thompson. Here is Calestani not being shown much on cameras because of course he's running all alone, even though now he will have to make a move on Agi Varnava, I think, if the driver in front of him doesn't pit soon. But of course, we've seen him in the Grand Prix Series, in the official series last season. Matteo, always a reliable driver. And it's also very kind because he gives me a lot of insider information about the races. So I can make less of a fool of myself during the broadcast.
Yeah, do you know if Matteo's going to try to be going, trying to go pro in the next few months, Kevin, or is he just going to take a step back now?
I'd expect him to go for the World Championship license. He's been at the top of the Grand Prix Series for a while. He's always been consistently there as he's got a run into the last chicane. He's looking up the inside. Here he goes on the brakes. Should have it on the newer tyres, and that he does. Good move. Alexandros now got to come into the pits, I'd say. Yep, here he comes.
Yeah, Augusto also is in, and Thompson stays out.
Interesting to see what Radicals are planning here with Thompson.
Is Thompson going for a no-stopper? I don't think it would be crazy, you know, but...
Interesting to see. If he is, the time gaps are not his friend at the moment, because he's just lost 1.5 seconds there on that last lap, and he's going to need to be a second a lap slower to maintain the gap to the end. So I don't know what Thompson's doing. I'd say he's got to come in soon, but if he's going for the no-stop, then it's not going to work.
Yeah, he's bound to be caught up at this rate, isn't he? With probably 6 or 7 laps to go. In fact, he'd maybe even be put under pressure by Calestani by the end of the race, because he'll be catching him very, very efficiently with
here he comes.
And here comes Josh. So has he just pushed this 1 lap too far, you think, Kevin, because he's going to have a long gap to catch up now?
Yeah, that in lap there was left a lot to be desired, to be honest. Had a big understeer moment just after the Schumacher race. But we'll see how far behind he comes out. He's going to have to deal with Ronaldo, of course. I don't think Ronaldo has pitted yet, has he? No, he's not. So maybe he's just come out the pits now. But yeah, we need to see how far behind Thompson is from Orozco, and then have a look at the time gaps and see as Orozco has already passed, and Thompson's not even off the jacks yet. Here he is off the jacks and away now. So he should come out in P2. But the question is how far behind is he?
Around 6 seconds. That is the gap between Orozco and Thompson. So, and the same gap is right behind to Calestani. So Thompson now he has a decent gap to make up, but he has the fresher tires, and he will have to push like crazy, I think, if he wants to have a shot. He will have the clean track ahead. Let's see, of course, when you then close the gap on the car in front of you, and you have fresher tires, of course, you have to hope that by the moment you eventually catch the guy in front of you, that you still have some tires left and maybe go for a pass. So we'll see. 19 laps to go, and this is brewing nicely for a nice finish for the first and second spot on the podium.
Yeah, if you were Ricciardo at this point, Kevin, would you be thinking, okay, I'll save my tyres right now, maybe allow Josh not to catch up with 5 laps to go or whatever, but think, yeah, if he does catch up to me, I'll have decent tyres which I'll be able to defend against, or would you be pushing as hard as you possibly can just to try to, keep that gap for as long as possible?
If I was in Ricciardo's shoes, I would just be concentrating on setting consistent laps, which at the moment he has been doing in the mid to high 131s. So just set consistent laps, keep the pressure on Thompson because the ball's in Thompson's court now. He's the one who's got to make the gap up. So if you just keep on banging in consistent lap times, make him have to push harder and harder. That's all he can do at the moment. Saving tyres in this car, I've not had much success with actually saving them. Usually just driving normally. The tyres just seem to last for me. I'm not really sure if just a driving style or what, but yeah, for Roscoe, just concentrate on setting mid to high 31s, because at the moment Thompson's going to need to be doing low 31s, which I don't think will be quite possible, just from the looks of his lap times. But time will tell.
Well, he's just set 3 purple sectors, but it's only about half a tenth in each sector, so that should add up to maybe quarters of a second per lap, 3/10 of a second per lap, which needs a little bit more than that with 18 more laps to go. Still got the battle between Revolta and Kudmore going on out there, 8th and 9th. 1 second between the pair of them. They're both pitted. Kudmore went a little bit further in that first inning, pitted 2 laps later. Actually, Revolta actually had to take a front wing change. I think he had a 6-second longer pit stop than pretty much everyone else out there. So yeah, that must have been for repairs. But Kudmore very close now, almost getting within a second, and he might even have DRS by the end of this lap.
Had a look at Thompson's lap there, his first lap on the fresh tyres, 31.5, Orozco also 31.5, so it's not worked, not yet anyway. And with this light fuel that these guys will have on board, these tyres will probably not drop off anywhere near the amount that they did yesterday. As obviously our second stint, we were starting with probably just over 50 kilos for the second stint, whereas these guys started the actual race on 65 kilos or somewhere around there. So these guys are on very light fuel. These tyres will hardly wear, so I don't think you're going to see a massive lap time drop off from Orozco. So yeah, it's not looking great for Thompson.
Yeah, he's going to have to just pray that Ricardo's times all of a sudden drop off a bit. He has just set a slightly slower first sector there, 3/10 slower than Thompson in the first sector, about 1.5 tenths do the second, matching each other in the mid part of the circuit though. So maybe a half-second gain this time for Thompson, but as long as Ricciardo just sets consistent lap times in the 31s, that could well be enough to take home this race victory. This was the battle I was talking about earlier on. And yeah, just dipping to below 1 second on that last lap. Kudmore actually lost 1.5 tenths, but it's still very close amongst these guys. It's also getting quite close between Hagenavara and Furlich. Because Furlich was tapped round by Hagenavara earlier on due to a lot of netcode. It was not Hagenavara's fault whatsoever, but there's only 2.5 seconds between those two currently, with Furlich actually losing a couple of tenths himself on that last lap, but could still be very close in the closing stages. And of course also Auguste and Tierney getting held up earlier on behind a bit of traffic, but he is currently lapping faster than Ronaldo and has got 1 lap older tyres, but yeah, should be able to put a little bit of pressure on the positive sim racing driver by the end of the race.
Just had a look again, Ricciardo made a mistake on his last lap. He did a 32.2 and Thompson with a 31.1, so again 1.1 seconds on that last lap, it's down to 5 seconds. So that will help him out there.
Oh, Revolta's round, unfortunately. Just got too much curve. I don't know if you saw that one, Marco, but it seemed to take a little bit too much curve. Got onto that bump in the second part of the chicane and round he went.
Yeah, here's the replay. So all good right now, but then you will see, yeah, a bit too much power, I think, also coming out of the corner. Could have been a lot worse, but of course now position lost. Is in last place. We have to push hard if he wants to close the gap back to Kudmore in front of him.
yeah, in the end, that had nothing to do with the bumps. It was literally just the power application, which was a little bit odd, considering that, you know, we're at this point in the race, relatively fresher tyres for these drivers. But yeah, just struggling to get the power down out of that corner. Berlich on that last lap took another 0.3 of a second off Hagenval, or compare lap times this time as well. These two still about a second a lap off the pace of the drivers just ahead of them. Hagenval, much stronger lap time, actually a personal best lap time on that last one, 32.9 compared to Berlich's 33.39, so quite a bit slower there for Berlich. And it's, yeah, just ebbing and flowing that one. Not a definitive gain for Berlich per lap, but if he just keeps on chipping away at it, he may well be able to pressure the Racing Network driver by the end of the race.
Back to Thompson, let's see the times. 31.4 is best time of the race for Roscoe. Let's see Thompson if he's able to respond. 31.5, no, so Roscoe gains back a little bit, and that's I think a strong message that he was able to do his fastest lap of the race there for Roscoe, saying to Thompson, well, I'm not going to give up right now, even though the tires are a bit worn, because he came into the pits a bit earlier. That was a good message. I think Thompson has to respond, has to push even harder right now, because what he's doing right now is not enough. He gained a lot earlier in the laps because Orozco made a mistake, but I'm not seeing that, you know, very fast pace I was expecting from Thompson after his late pit stop.
Again on this lap, gains 0.3 of a second through the first sector. That seems to be where he can really gain through those slow speed corners. Do you find that's usually the case, Kevin? Around the slow speed corners, the tyres, the fresh tyres are at their most useful?
I wouldn't say so. I think it's more dependent on what Radicals do with their setups. Obviously, we have some ideas on what they do with the tyre pressures and such, and from the looks of Josh's drop-off, it seemed quite severe in that first stint, so probably need to have a little look at what they're doing with tyres to try and make them last a bit longer. But I think obviously the lower tyre pressure you run, the quicker you're going to be in slow speed corners, so maybe a Positive Sim Racing running a slightly higher tyre pressure than Radicals here, as Thompson takes another near enough half second out of Orozco that lap, so the gap's now 4 seconds. It was 6 seconds only 4 laps ago. So this might actually shape up to be a bit better than what we were thinking. Hopefully the gap keeps on coming down. We have a bit of a battle for the win, because at the moment it's sort of spread out throughout the mid-pack. Everything seems pretty stale, so this seems to be the battle to watch at the moment. It's a bit of a time trial for these two guys, but yeah, the times are coming down from Thompson.
Still Turney putting a little bit of pressure on Augusto. On that last lap, he was actually a second faster, was the Radicals online driving. Seemingly just getting quicker and quicker as this race goes on, is Turney, and he can very much see his rival just ahead. Revolta just getting a little bit closer once again to Kudmore out there. Just down to 1.5 seconds. This one just seems to, yeah, be swapping either way currently. Because, yeah, neither of them can seemingly make a gap without the other seemingly coming back at them on that last lap. Revolta once again half a second faster. And, yeah, we'll certainly keep an eye out on that one.
So Kevin, you were talking about these new changes to the car that I don't think were necessarily made public by iRacing when a new build came out a few weeks ago?
Yeah, there was a few adjustments that weren't mentioned that we had to figure out for ourselves. Of course, iRacing brought out a new update to the ERS, which, in my opinion, is a step backwards to what we did have. Because initially, the way that this car was ran initially, you'd run a very low deployment setting on the car, and you completely control the deployment with a button. So if you wanted to deploy ERS, you just simply held down the push to pass button. iRacing didn't want that, so they nerfed the longevity of the push to pass. So what a lot of teams did is we developed a way to go to the second most highest output setting, which had a little bit less power but lasted almost twice as long. So we did that. Then iRacing brought out another few updates to the ERS and changed it again to where that was no longer an option. And now the latest update they made to the ERS, we're right back to where we were a year and a half ago, where we control it with a button, pretty much. So that was the only update that they really made public. But from what we can feel, there was a definite steering change that was noticed by pretty much everyone on the grid. We did actually ask Eric Hudek if anything had changed, and he said no. So something's happened somewhere that he's not aware of, and we're being told nothing was changed. So we're not really sure. But yeah, these drivers will all be getting accustomed to that over the last couple of weeks, and we'll be feeling the effects of it now. I've got to say, just from the corner that Josh Thompson went through there, turn 4 or 5, I was having some issues in the World Championship yesterday, as the new steering rack is so sensitive. The first few degrees of turning, the car really does want to turn, and as soon as the tyres begin to wear, the rear end just gets really unsettled. So as soon as you begin to turn in for that corner, the whole car wants to slide around. So especially up through here as well, the Schumacher S, very sensitive up through here. So these guys, it may look simple, but it's absolutely not now with this new steering rack. It's added a whole new dynamic to the car, which I personally prefer. It feels more like a Formula 1 car now. But it's a little bit more difficult to drive near the end of a stint because of how precise the steering is now.
The rumor has it that they are trying and they are starting to implement some of the new physics that are going to be necessary when a new damage model comes in, because we've seen on some cars, for example, the Radical, the Skip Barber, without any changes made public on the release notes, with the same tracks, same conditions, same setups. For example, the Skip Barber is lapping a bit slower and has less top speed, so and it feels a little bit different when you are turning into the corners. So people are saying maybe they are getting into the physics system some a bigger degree of drag due to the fact that now pieces of the cars in the future will be active pieces of cars and not just, for example, front wings disappearing after contact. So these changes that were not and we know iRacing usually puts everything in the release notes, they're very clear about that, but some of the cars, the Formula 1 car, the Skip Barber, the Radical, have changed quite a bit without having any release notes notes in there, you know what I mean? So definitely there's something going on, I think, about this.
Yeah, I don't drive the car very often, but the Mazda MX-5, for example, I was messing around in that, and I hosted it last week, and hit a wall hard enough that one of the wheels actually did come off. It didn't roll down the track and roll away from my car. The wheel disappeared. So I literally did only have, usually the suspension will get pushed in really far and the wheel is way inside the car, but this wheel completely came off. So I've never seen that before. I don't know if that was always a part of the MX-5 or if that's something else that iRacing have sneaked in, but there have been wheels actually coming off of cars, like just disappearing and not being anywhere in the car whatsoever. So it's there is some strange things going on with the recent release notes. So it's keeping us on our toes, but yeah, looking forward to the new damage model and of course the new tyre model. Can't wait for that. As yeah, I've been pretty vocal on Twitter the last couple of days about the tyre model. So let's get a new one out and hopefully fix the issues that we've got at the moment.
10 laps to go, sorry, and Orozco is 3 seconds ahead of Thompson. So as they are getting, I think, for the first time into lap traffic, as you see on the bottom right end of your screen, the interactive gap between Orozco and Thompson, it was 4.2 seconds a few laps ago, now down to 3.1. Is there enough time, Sam, in your opinion, for Thompson to catch back up to Roscoe?
Well, right now it's looking as though he's going to catch him, doesn't it? You know, we've got 9 laps to go at the conclusion of this one. What does he need per lap? What, 3/10 per lap to catch up to the back of him? So he should just about manage that one. But an overtake's going to be extremely difficult as actually Roscoe just loses a couple of tenths just around that final corner. And Thompson, will he get DRS it? Yes, he will. That will give him an extra couple of tenths, which we'll very much appreciate on that last lap. 4/10 of a second between the pair of them. So it's going to be marginal. And yeah, it's going to come down to the final lap, we hope at least.
I think Tierney had a problem, if I'm not mistaken. He went off the racing surface a few seconds ago, and you can see he dropped way back from the car he was following. Let's get a replay. Of course, great work of Scott Newton behind the cameras, and he went around. Oh, and also hit the fence. So that's front wing damage. So a mistake for Tierney coming out of the hairpin there at turn 8, and of course that will, I don't think he will have to pit because he has a nice gap over Raji Vernava, but certainly is going to affect the rest of his race.
Yeah, that's a shame. Tierney was running very well after the pit stop, was consistently in the mid-32s, running very solid lap times, and yeah, he's just dropped it out of nowhere there. It's a big shame. There's 7 cars now left on the lead lap here, with only a handful of laps left to go. Let's see what Thompson could do over the line here. If it's over half a second he gains here, then there's a good chance he'll catch a Roscoe, or he'll get DRS at least, because once he gets within 1 second, the DRS will help massively. But of course, catching and overtaking is 2 very different things, especially in this car.
Only half a tenth on that lap for Thompson, barely caught whatsoever. And yeah, like I was saying before, 3/10, probably needs 4/10 really to properly mount an attack in the closing stages, and he's not getting that at the moment. It's through this first sector where often he can gain, you know, 3/10 of a second, what certainly seems to be where his car is performing well. On this lap, he does actually gain 4/10 of a second, so that's a nice little chunk out for Thompson. Back within 2.5 seconds now.
Oh, he's had a massive moment in the Schumacher S there. That's that might have sealed the deal there. His rears are going to be overheated massively now after that. That's a similar slide to what I had in the World Championship yesterday. His was a bit more severe, as he also runs wide there on the exit onto the back straight.
Well, that's undone his work from the past 2 laps, really, because the gap's back up to about 3 seconds. So, yeah, I think you might be right there, Kevin. Looks as though this one might just be over for Josh Thompson. Unless, of course, Ricardo Roscoe does make a mistake or really struggles in these closing stages due to those tyres.
He has only lost a tenth on that lap to a Roscoe, so if he hadn't had that moment, he'd be under 2 seconds, so he'd be kicking himself now. So Roscoe had an off lap, and Roscoe's consistency has sort of been up and down the last few laps. He's been as good as a 31.4, and then 2 laps later he's been down at a 32.0. So 32.2 last time, and the lap before that was a 31.7. So his consistency is not exactly there, but he's putting in the 31.7s and 31.9s when he needs to, and keeping that gap where it needs to be.
On this lap, Thompson only a couple of tenths faster through the first half, and you can see he's absolutely pushing those front tyres to the limit, just trying to extract every ounce of pace they can possibly find. Would you say though that Josh Thompson's going to be one of the favourites for qualifying for the Pro Series, for the World Championship next season? Kevin, do you think he's at that standard now?
He stands a good chance of qualifying. In terms of winning the entire championship, I'm not quite sure he's quite there yet. Radicals have some work to do with their tyres for sure. As this is not an ideal position right now for Thompson actually to be chasing down someone when he's on old tyres himself, because Radicals, as I've said, do not seem to have longevity in their tyres. They need to have a bit of a look at that, because that's definitely where they're losing out the most. They have decent short run paces. There's a big wiggle there, and that's going to be an off track. Yep, it is. So they need to be careful. They get 17 incident points until they get disqualified, and Thompson at the moment is on 13. So he's got 4 incidents left and 5 laps left. So he's got to be careful. Yeah, I think Radicals need to use this series as a bit of a fine-tuning for the right before the Pro Series, as he's really struggling with the tyres now. They've just fallen off the cliff. He's getting understeer mid-corner, then oversteer in the exit.
Yeah, the pace in this stint has slowly kind of evened out. Initially, Thompson seemed to have, 4/10 of a second most laps, and you can see now there's barely a couple of tenths between the pair of them. And Thompson's driving very ragged at the moment. You doubt Roscoe is really pushing it too hard. He knows that all he needs to do is keep it on the circuit with some more mid-32s, which is what he's doing currently. And he should be home and dry.
It's frustrating for me here watching this, because I know I can somewhat see what's wrong with Radical's setup, but I can't say anything because I don't want them to find it. So yeah, I mean, I can see roughly what's wrong. And I've been in the position that Josh is in right now, where the tyres are just not holding on, and you're pushing and you just do not have the grip underneath you to catch up. So I'll give Radicals a tip. Just it's in the tyres somewhere. Just look there. Do a bit of experiment and do some random clicking. It's iRacing, remember, there's not a whole lot really makes sense on the setup sometimes. Just need to spend a bit of time on that before the Pro Series. If you can get the tyres sorted out, they'd be very quick, because the Partington was very quick in qualifying yesterday. Qualified inside the top 10 in the World Championship, so they've found some pace in qualifying over the last couple of rounds. But I think just their race pace is where it's been lacking, and it's been that case over the last couple of years, to be honest. Kuzuki was kind of the standout at Montreal. He managed to hang on pace-wise there as well, so that was the kind of one-off. So whatever they did at Montreal, if you're not trying it at other tracks already, then I suggest giving it a try, because what you had at Montreal worked. So they just need to try and apply that to other tracks, or find the fix, because they're struggling at the moment. There's a 31.6 that time from Thompson. He's gained 8/10. The gap's under 2 seconds with 4 laps to go. This could get quite close, guys.
Yeah, maybe those tyres just coming back, because all of a sudden Thompson's done a 31.6. That's only 4/10 slower and his fastest lap of the race, and that's pretty much his fastest lap in about 6. So he's all of a sudden back on it, but has he just left it a little bit too late? Of course, Radicals, I think, did get a lockout at Suzuka as well in 2016. And of course, that's the next race for you, Kevin, in the World Championship Series. Of course, you've had, 2 races in the past 9 weeks. So I imagine you've been able to, practice a little bit for these remaining rounds a little bit earlier than maybe you would normally.
We planned on practicing, but as soon as we had now, I think
Kevin, you're just speaking up, I don't know if it's just Discord or... Okay, I think we just had some Discord issues there, but I think we're okay once again.
Yes, we are. With 2 laps to go when Riccardo Orozco will cross the start-finish line, which is going to be in just a few seconds. The gap to the car behind is around 2 seconds. So whilst Thompson has been able to close the gap, I don't think Sam is going to be enough. And we might have our very first winner in the history of this championship, Riccardo Orozco, for Positive Sim Racing and Brazil.
Yeah, Thompson just had a very poor sector 3 and 4, lost nearly half a second in the space of about a third of a lap. And yeah, if it weren't for that, then he'd be within 1.5 seconds right now. Instead, it's over 2, as it doesn't look like he's going to quite be able to catch in time. In hindsight, Kevin, do you think it was the right decision for Thompson to stay out for that long? Of course, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and you can always get things right in hindsight. But is there anything that I think they'll be wishing they did differently?
Well, it was definitely worth a try. He had nothing to lose at the time, and I think without the couple pretty moderate mistakes that he's made, it would have actually worked. I mean, he'd be right on the tail of Orozco now if it wasn't for the couple of times that he ran wide and had that moment in the Schumacher S. So overall, I think it had to do something different, and he did. So I'd say he did it right that way. But it looks like just the few mistakes that he's made has kind of prevented any chance he would have had as Orozco comes across the line to start the final lap. White flag is out. But it's small mistakes like that are going to catch Thompson out in the Pro Series. He's got to try and mitigate them, because in the Pro Series you're going to have 30 guys in a race and higher strength of fields than there are here. And every little mistake, there's going to be someone right behind you to take advantage of it. Sometimes even 2 or 3 people to take advantage of it. So just got to calm himself down and try and mitigate the mistakes where he can. And as I said earlier as well, just try and figure out the slight tyre issues that Radicals are having at the moment just before then, and I think they could be definitely solid for a top 5 if they can just keep the car on the track. He's showing decent pace to even stay with Orozco today. It's impressive, so that's he needs to take this positive and move it towards the Pro Series.
Yeah, Thompson has given up 3 seconds now the gap, so it's going to be a smooth ride until the final corner for Riccardo Orozco.
Oh, Thompson's gone off.
Yeah, Thompson has gone off. Lucky for him, Calestani is a long ways back. But yeah, I think it was done already. That seals the deal. Orozco is going to win this race, Sam.
Yeah, he's just got a couple more corners to round. He took pole position, did Riccardo Orozco, and since then he has not put a foot wrong. Under pressure from Josh Thompson for 40 laps, but he's withheld the pressure. And Riccardo Orozco is going to take round 1 of the iRacing Grand Prix Championship here at the Nürburgring. And that was an extremely impressive performance, a performance that you'd expect from a driver of his caliber, with Josh Thompson ending up in 2nd place. He may regret a little bit, but in the end, it was all done in qualifying. Maybe if that was slightly different, he could have had a chance. Matteo Calestani, a distant 3rd, but a consistent performance as you can expect from him. And behind that will be Augusto, Tierney, Harj Navarra, Berlich, Kudmore and Revolta, it seems, to round out the field. Not quite the turnout that we were hoping for, Marco, for this first round of the championship, but if we just get a couple more drivers, we saw certainly in those opening stages, those first half of the race, we had some fantastic battles up there. If we can get a few more drivers on the grid, then it could turn into a very successful series, this.
Absolutely. I mean, there's still a long way to go in the season. A lot of drivers have signed up, so I'm a bit surprised they haven't showed up for this first race. Hopefully they will, because the cards are all there on the table to have a fantastic series. We had some moments of great fun today. We don't need a lot more. Like in real life, it's 20 cars starting grid, so we had 12 today. I think we need a little bit more car. Also because we want to make these race stewards work because they did nothing today, and that's unacceptable. I mean, they should do something to earn their money, you know.
Well, the final results we can now view, and it is Ricardo Roscoe taking away the race victory from pole position, with Josh Thompson ending up in second. Mateo Calstani only 22 seconds behind by the end, but he was very distant really from the opening lap, but it's still a good performance there in third. Ronaldo Augusto, very lonely performance in fourth. He just got a good start and held on to it. Adam Turney, you wonder what he could have done if it weren't for him getting stuck behind a couple of drivers behind him at the start of the race. He ends up in fifth with Alexandros Harjinovar in sixth. Luke Furlich was running up in fifth at one point. He ends up in seventh with David Cudmore beating Jonathan San Emeterio Revolta in eighth and ninth, one lap down. Joseph Ringrose got involved in a collision at the chicane early on in the race. He ends up 33 laps down in 10th, and unfortunately, Clavatti and Preston could not take the start because they were outside the 105% qualifying rule at the starts of the events.
Let me say just something very quickly. I love the rule that this championship has, that after the start-finish line, you have to take the entirety of the cool-down lap and then go back to the pits, because a lot of times, and I noticed this now that I'm also doing some broadcasting, when you try to show the race winner after he crosses the start-finish line, he already is towing back to the pits because he can't bother doing that final lap. So nice choice, very, very good for us also in the broadcast booth. Of course, you can see now on the screen the championship standings, and they are in the order they finished this race. So Roscoe is 100 points. It's 80 points for Thompson, 70 for Calestani, 64 for Augusto, 64 Tierney. You can see all the other drivers in the following positions, according, of course, to how they finished this very, very first event.
Yeah, of course, World Championship Grand Prix Series point system. So plenty of opportunity for drivers to come back across with 20 points between the top two positions. And of course, they did get one drop round as well. So the drivers who didn't turn up for this round will still be able to come back in the championship in the next 7 rounds. And of course, the next round of the championship will be in 2 weeks' time. I think that's at Circuit of the Americas. I might completely be making that up.
Spa.
Spa. Okay,
Spa,
I don't know why I thought it was Qatar. Yep. But yeah, Spa, that will be 100% race, I think. So that will be very interesting. We have got a Joe wanting an interview, and it is the race winner, Ricardo Roscoe. And Ricardo, well done out there. That was a very measured performance. You did not put a foot wrong for those 40 laps.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was a good race. It's good to have a break sometimes from the WCS and try to battle at the front again. So yeah, had a good fun, and Josh has driven quite well as well. So props for him and Matteo for the podium as well. And yeah, thanks to you guys as well for setting up this series. Not really a fan of fixed series on iRacing, so I'm happy to be able to race it with my own setups.
Yeah, definitely. And in that first stint, of course, it was a bit of a cat and mouse game between you and Josh, because it was very much whoever pitted first would end up ahead. But you pretty much nailed that strategy. Josh didn't get the undercut, and even with fresher tyres, he struggled to catch back up to you.
Yeah, exactly. I think if he had pitted a little bit earlier, maybe we would have fought at the end. Maybe 1 or 2 laps earlier for him would have worked. And this car is changing all the time now, so the tire management has changed a little bit since the last update. And yesterday at WCS, I did 35 laps with 1 set of tires, and the drop-off was not so big. So I said, okay, I was having a hard time braking the DRS zone, so I said, okay, maybe it's smart to just try to pit earlier. So I just checked my pit delta, and I could have free traffic. So yeah, I guess it worked out.
Yeah, certainly worked out in the end. And of course, we've kind of been explained by Kevin Khan that the changes to this car recently. How have you found it? Do you enjoy these changes, and what kind of challenges does it present for you now?
I think it keeps it fresh. In a way, it's every now and then we build all the setups, and the setups are ready, and then iRacing throws some new things at us, and then we have to try to rebuild it again. So it keeps us working, I would say. As far as the changes goes, the car needs a little bit less wheel input now, so the front's more planted, I would say. It's cool to drive, I would say. I cannot say if it's the most realistic thing, but it's been cool to drive. It's a challenge. I've only driven here at the Nürburgring. So let's see how that's gonna work on the next tracks. And but yeah, I'm good with it. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, next time you got Suzuka coming up in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Are you and your team looking forward to that one?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So all right, we're done with Nürburgring. Let's get it working for Suzuka, and hopefully I can get more practice in, because for this last races, I was in France for the whole week, so I couldn't practice properly. So hopefully for a good one in Suzuka.
Yeah, we'll certainly be wishing you a lot of luck for that one. And before you let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, just I'd like to say a big thank you to Positive Sim Racing, the complete team, and of course my main sponsors is University Isabel I, and to you guys as well for setting up this series and broadcasting. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ricardo. We'll see you next week.
See you.
We've also got Josh Thompson with us now, and Josh, well done out there. That was a really good second place. Of course, your strategy, you kind of had to do something different because overtaking was so difficult out there. And it nearly worked out. Your tyres just seemed to be struggling a little bit in the closing stages, though.
Yeah, just the dirty air was driving me nuts, to be honest. And it was just a pendulum back and forth between a second, dropping out of the DRS and driving back up. So I knew I wanted to try and stretch it because I was so shocked with Ricardo dropping in so early to the pits. I was like, okay, I could have a chance here. Stretched it a bit because obviously I knew how bad the tyres were here in the shadow last season. And like the last 3-4 laps, you're 3 seconds slower. So I was like hoping that would happen. And obviously I thought I did it right at first. Started coming down, then I had a huge mistake through the Schumacher S. And then from there, I started bringing it home because it was just so hard to drive because I think I overheated the tyres.
Yeah, we saw in those closing stages, yeah, you made that slide from about when you were about 1.5 seconds behind. After that, you struggled to really reduce the gap much further. But overall, can you kind of take many positives from this race? At least you were extremely close to Ricardo in both qualifying and in the race. And of course, if you're going for pro very soon, you're certainly seemingly up to that standard by now.
Yeah, to be honest, I think I should have had pole. I messed up my lap. That last lap, I was up by 3 or 4 tenths, which would have put me on the pole, which I'd been ecstatic with. But obviously decided to bottle into the last chicane. So, yeah, so can't complain about that because I'd say qualifying was my Achilles heel last year. And a lot of people say that my race pace has always been okay, but it was just qualifying. I was always in the mix where it was always a bit crashy, a bit hard to get through. So now I nailed that in. I can't complain. And to say I was the only person who really challenged Ricardo this race, because look at the gap back and being the best non-pro in a way, I'd say. I can't really complain, and with limited testing.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, just looking forward to kind of your series coming in the future. What are you kind of taking part in for this season 3 of the year?
Probably just this, because obviously it's probably like the best preparation for pro. Due to I don't really want to drive a fix up. Also tonight on the Porsche tonight, so that should be interesting. Going from this back to the Porsche.
Yes, and that'll be very good to watch. Of course, that is on at 8:15 BST. I had to get a little bit of promotion in there, but of course, Spa coming up in this series, Josh, and 100% races. Is that going to change your, kind of preparation for that event at all? The fact that it's a little bit longer.
Well, the fact it's Spa was a lot better than driving around the Nürburgring, so that's one. So I'll probably do a lot more laps of that. And yeah, I didn't really put much effort into this week. I didn't start testing until this morning, and I did like 10 laps and gave up. Saying I don't really like the new changes. A lot of people have said they like it. I preferred how it was before. So obviously I managed to get my head around how to manage the tyre and stuff. And now with the tyre wear seemingly not as strong as Ricardo was saying, and the front now being really pointy, it kept catching me out, especially in like the fast speed and the high speed sectors. So Spa, new track, see how the car reacts there.
Yeah, we're certainly looking forward to that one. And before we let you go, any shout outs you'd like to give?
Yeah, so thank you for you guys for organising this. Great job. Thank you for getting an actual open series. Mike Partington, especially, because he was one who actually kicked me up the arse to get me testing for this. And everyone at Radicals, so Rob, Adam, everyone who took part today and helping out.
Thanks, Josh. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
we'll see you very soon on Apex Racing
Yep,
TV.
see you
later on.
tonight. See you later.
I think that pretty much wraps us up. Of course, yeah, later on we do have the BSR Immortal Porsche Cup.
And
Yeah,
you don't want to miss that, because we are going to have a field. We had a fantastic field last Sunday, but today we are going to have that with Josh Thompson. We're going to have Michele Ricci, one of the fastest Porsche drivers around. It's going to be fantastic, and of course we are at Spa-Francorchamps as well. So it's going. I think we're going to have around 40 cars with some of the best Porsche drivers around in iRacing. So you don't want to miss that.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty mental. And then once again, tomorrow we've got the World GT as well. And probably, yeah, Wednesday, the Le Mans Series, Thursday, the BSR TC as well. And of course, yeah, next Saturday, we've also got the Apex Racing UK team stream as well. Of course, Kevin will be featuring in that. But for now, from me, from Marco, from Kevin, and from Scott, we'll say goodbye and we'll see you next time.